Hi, everybody, and welcome to this special episode of the Dr. Keith Darrow podcast. Today, I welcome somebody in hearing healthcare who has gone from provider to hearing healthcare inventor, hearing healthcare advocate. Please welcome Jeff Szmanda. Jeff, thank you so much for being here. I am really interested in learning more about your story. In full transparency, you and I have had a few emails back and forth. That's about it. I know I hear your passion in your emails and in the stuff that you're trying to do to really change how we provide hearing healthcare. So thank you so much for being here today and for agreeing to be on this podcast. So I gotta start with one question though. It's a question I start with everybody because I don't want to know what you do until I know why you do it. So tell me more about your why and your passion.
Well, I have fit hearing aids. I have worked in the past, you'll hear, on ergonomic design, helping people with physical disabilities. And I have just grown to love helping people with their hearing. It's so important. And I have discovered something that is a problem, and I believe I have solved it. I've tested it. I know it to be true. And people are struggling unnecessarily now. And so my job is to get through to the hearing aid manufacturers that there's a solution and have them understand.
So let's go ahead. Let's get the cat out of the bag, which is, and you see it right up there on my board. This is part of the Each Ear project, which you have really taken this project to the forefront. I've seen you on social media. So what is the problem and what's the solution you're providing? Because everybody who listens to this, whether patient or provider, is going to know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes, they are. They're going to know this right away, especially the practitioners who fit hearing aids and the patients and the family caregivers and other caregivers. They understand this. And I think the key is to actually work with the patients. And so I want to start off just talking very briefly about RIC hearing aids. 80% of the hearing aids now are RICs because they're so versatile.
They're great.
Yeah, they allow, people gain weight, their ear canals get smaller. They lose weight, the ear canals get larger. Now the custom hearing aids don't fit anymore. I remember painting them with fingernail polish to try to make them larger.
Yes, I remember that too.
Sanding them off, yeah. So if their weight changes, they just put a different dome on. Now they're good. They can get it deeper. The receiver can go deeper into the canal with a RIC. And
I have to tell you, just to, when it comes to RIC, I'll give you a 30-second version of my story. I was in audiology. I left audiology for a number of reasons, came back after my PhD, and RIC was just coming out. I remember I felt like I walked back into audiology and the Oticon Delta was being thrown at me and all the different versions that were out at that time. And now it's really to see that style of hearing aid grow in the last 10 to 15 years. And like you said, probably 80% of patients can use RIC style. And now it's not just mild, it can go all the way through, stage 4, sometimes profound hearing loss if you have the right equipment, you have the right tubing, the right receiver. So RIC is very, very, very versatile, not just physically, but also technologically, which is just awesome. But you mentioned 80% of people, everybody who's listening to this, including myself quite often, comes across a patient who just can't get it in their ear.
Yeah.
And you sit there and you're bummed because the patient needs RIC. It's best for their hearing. It's just best for them all around, but they struggle. And you pointed out weight loss. It could be arthritis. It could be diabetic neuropathy. There's a whole host of reasons, Parkinson's, as to why somebody would struggle to get a receiver in their ear. It's not as simple as it sounds.
Right. It could be the receiver. just inadequate surface. You know, people, like you say, they've got dexterity issues, they have sensation issues. Many people can't straighten their fingers. You get older, you know, the average age of a first-time hearing aid wearer is 70 years old. Average age of a first-time hearing aid wearer. That's amazing. So when you're a young engineer, you know, and God bless them. When I was 19, I knew everything. You know, you couldn't tell me anything. I knew it all. You know, but you don't know what it's like to be 70, 80, 90 years old and struggle with, my mother couldn't straighten all of her fingers. So I remember I had a lady could barely get her hand up to her ear canal. You know, she's in a wheelchair. Not everybody has no physical limitations.
Right.
Yeah. And then the ear canals. The ear canals can be angled and bent and obstructed by cartilage and narrow and so forth.
Well, right. Even the Rick style, even though there's different size domes, they're still, in a sense, one size fits all. And really, it's one size fits most. And so you have really been after well, if it fits most, what about the rest of those people? We can't say too bad, so sad. We can't not offer them a solution. And so you've spearheaded this Each Ear project, which has such a great name because it really, you're trying to make sure each ear can be fit with proper technology.
Yeah, that is correct. Correct. Our logo is a fingerprint. Each ear is unique because of the hearing loss, but also the ear canal and the outer ear and so forth. But people have physical limitations. They have challenging ear canals, and seniors and veterans and caregivers. So caregivers have to insert hearing aids in other people's ears. And these caregivers don't all have otoscopes. You know, they've got to.
I don't know of any that have them.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, when you're older and you're struggling with physical limitations and so forth, your patients are also limited. You know, everything is harder.
Now, here's a pet peeve of mine, because I know you've seen it too. You go out and you're in public and you see somebody walking by who's in the age category we're speaking of, and his or her hearing aid is on the ear, except the little wire is sticking straight out in the air. And so, you know, this amazing technology truly only works if it's in correctly, right? If it's off by, you know, even a few millimeters, we're talking the hearing aid is effectively useless. And so deep insertion is so important. And why are there some issues with that out there? Why? I mean, it's you know, it's really not just that easy, but what goes into that?
Well, you're you know, if you can't manipulate and you can't access and you can't control the receiver, then, you know, I had a lady, and I remember she told me, and I wrote it down. I have it in my handwritten notes right here. She said, "I feel stupid." You know, now this is when you love your patients and you hear something like that, it really gives you the chills, because the last thing you want is for your patient to feel and to tell you they feel stupid. So it's just a matter of accessing and being able to manipulate and control the receiver. And so,
I think
you're right.
You've really touched upon something there, Jeff, which is hearing loss in itself. We know this. It causes a lot of frustration, a lot of anxiety, depression, stress. And we want to make treatment simple. And we may have the technology to do so. But at the end of the day, we may have great technology, but as I mentioned, if your patient can't utilize it, then it serves no real purpose. And what you're potentially doing for that already depressed state of a patient, now they're struggling to put the hearing aid, and now they're just like, I give up. I really do. And so, you know, your patient said, "I feel stupid." Everybody who's worked in hearing healthcare has seen a patient break down over the difficulty in inserting a hearing aid and just causing more anxiety and more stress.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be that way.
No, it doesn't. And when you have physical limitations, in addition to the hearing loss, if you're struggling to hold things, if you're struggling just to do normal activities, simply because you're older and you have some physical limitations associated with being older, then everything is harder. So then trying to manipulate the receiver in the ear the way it is, people don't wear them sometimes because they're afraid of losing them. And, you talk about cognitive function and stimulation of the brain. As you said, what good is the technology if you can't get it in the ear? So these predicaments are more prevalent. And I have seen them over the past 13 years practicing. I have seen them. So I want to take a second, Keith, and read from a Siemens patent application back in 2009.
Okay.
And
I'm intrigued. Where I'm intrigued. Where is this going?
Yeah. So this is Siemens had a patent application on a tweezers-like device to help insert the receiver in the ear. Okay. And this is from reading it verbatim from their hearing aid, from their patent application. Experience has shown that hearing device wearers find it difficult, at least at the beginning, to insert the receiver of RIC hearing device correctly into the auditory canal. In many cases, this compromises the level of spontaneous acceptance of RIC hearing devices. The receiver can only be inserted into the auditory canal with difficulty because the receiver itself is very small and can only be pushed sufficiently far into the auditory canal with a high level of fingertip control. Consequently, the receiver is generally pushed back and forth with the aid of the connected cable until it is felt that the receiver is positioned correctly. However, the hearing device wearer continues to feel uncertain as to whether the receiver is pushed sufficiently deeply into the ear. God bless these guys, Keith.
I love when you dig deep enough, which you have done, you actually see into, and this is, you said 2009, right?
Yes.
So 2009. So we're only a couple years into RIC style. The manufacturer is already admitting this is a problem. Fast forward, no matter when you watch this podcast today, it's 2022, and this is still a problem.
Yes.
So I don't know what the patent was for, but it's never made it into my hands. It's never helped anybody in my clinics. Yeah. And I'm sure you would agree that this still is a difficulty that we are facing and we must overcome.
It was a handheld tweezer device that you would use to grasp onto the receiver, wiggle it in, and then put it down.
Okay. Yeah. Right. So I mean, that sounds logical. I get that. Yeah.
So,
but you have done something
they're addressing
different.
The problem. Yeah. So I'm just going to go back in time a little bit. This was in the early 90s.
Okay.
In 1990 or so, my brother and I invented a computer keyboard that helped people type with a natural posture. So can you see my hands all right? So you've got pronation, ulnar deviation, and extension. You got stress on the wrist. So we invented a computer keyboard. I'm using one actually, and it was adjustable so that you could fit, you could adjust the panel, the three panels, to a natural posture. I worked for 7 years. I worked with the chairman of the Department of Industrial Engineering at UW-Madison. For 7 years, I worked with the chairman of the Industrial Engineering Department. And he taught me, they did research on the keyboard, but I interacted with him and he taught me ergonomics. He said I had the equivalent of a master's degree in industrial engineering based on my work with him.
Love it.
Yeah. And so when I came across this problem, fitting hearing aids, fitting the RICs, I simply applied what I learned with the human computer interaction and to the receiver. And the awards on my wall, that's an award from Johns Hopkins University.
Okay.
For their annual search. That's a National Merit Award for the annual search for computing applications to assist people with disabilities. And over here, I've got my brother and I won first place in the state of Wisconsin governor's new product award competition for this keyboard.
Oh, wow. So I mean, you have a history in hearing healthcare, but you also have a history in ergonomic design specifically for people with disabilities or people who have difficulty accessing, call it, regular technology that the rest of us can access.
Right. That's true. That's true. So now with what I'm about to show you, you can access, control, and you have the ability to manipulate the receiver. So this is called Gruv Button technology. Can you see it all right?
Yeah, I can see it great.
Good. So you see that you have there are three components. You've got a finger tip support,
Okay.
a fingernail backstop, and a fingernail groove. Got it. So the finger, it's pretty simple. One of my patients, it looks like a screwdriver, So you can you see here how the fingertip fits, and the fingernail fits right into the groove button. And this allows the patient to manipulate, control, and access and wiggle that speaker sufficiently deep into the ear canal.
And that's exactly what our patients are looking for. How many times does a patient say to you, what am I supposed to push? What am I supposed to feel for? And you kind of, when it feels deep enough, then you can stop, right? Yeah. It's nearly impossible to explain the right way. Whereas this, you put your finger on this, push it in, and you're good to go.
I would say to my patients, as far as you can get it, as long as it's comfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I would say it. And so now you can wiggle it in. I always talked about manipulating, controlling. I exhibited at an annual conference of hearing practitioners in Wisconsin some time back. I just had an image of the Gruv Button on a banner, behind me. And I'm talking it as technically as I can. And somebody came up, it was at my little exhibit, and somebody came up and said, "What's this?" And he said, "Well, it's an assistive device to help you wiggle it in, help you wiggle a speaker in." I thought, that's brilliant. You got it in 2 seconds. And he said it so succinctly, so
keep it simple, right? KISS is, yes, that's a very meaningful statement.
Yeah, assistive device to help wiggle it in. So this is, the Gruv Button is a perfect example of universal design. And by definition, a universal design is something that's easily understood and used by all people, regardless of their age, size, or disability. Awesome. So this is intuitive, right? You don't have to think about it. You don't have to really learn much about how to use it. And it's inclusive, Keith. It just helps everybody.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, we were kind of focusing on the people who have extreme difficulty,
right?
But let's not pretend that your average, healthy, completely mobile patient does this very easily, right? I mean, you see people that have no physical handicaps struggle with getting this receiver in the ear for reasons like we talked about, which is it's not every ear size is the same. Maybe the ear canal changed. So it's not always about a physical limitation. I would, I don't have a number, but I would say at least 70% of my patients, we take a significant amount of time with that. How do you get it in? Where do I push? What do I grab onto type questions? Now, you use the word universal, and I like your definitions, but I need to know, is it universal in terms of Rick style hearing aids?
Well, the idea is universal. So that means it just talks about the design of it. That means it can be used by everybody, and it can be easily understood by everybody, regardless of the patient. It helps everybody.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is it's easy to understand. It's easy to see. So first of all, I want to reemphasize inclusive. This just helps everybody. There's no downside to this. It just helps everybody. And so, and I have all kinds of information on this on my website, eachear.com. but I want to read a couple of, at that exhibit, there were a couple of comments that I asked for comments, little written comments. And these are from practitioners. Here's the first one. It says, great idea. Patients struggle with insertion on a daily basis. The next one says,
agreed.
Yeah. The next one says, really makes practical sense. 2 exclamation point marks.
Agreed.
Yeah. Filling the need to properly seed an aid is great. Good luck. My favorite.
Agreed.
This is my favorite. We need this thing.
Yes. Yes.
You know,
yes.
Isn't that cool?
Yes. And I love that I love the pronoun we, because it's genuinely we.
Yeah.
We on our side and we on the patient side. We all need something like this. So what have you, so you designed something universal. Have we tried it? Have you just taken any random RIC that a patient has and you can plug this on? Tell me about that process. Has it worked? Has it?
Yeah. And I thought about an image. I have some of these left. They're so small you couldn't see it on the camera, but we have a video. It's called Basic Hearing Aid Training for Caregivers. Mm-hmm. And it's at hearingaidtraining.com. Isn't that a great name? Great domain.
Look at that. I mean, it's very, very fitting. It tells you exactly what you're about to do and what website you're about to go see. And I will make sure that's in the links below if you're watching this on YouTube.
Yeah. So there's a community outreach tool that practitioners can, for free, they give it this video, the link, the information to their local assisted living facilities and nursing homes and so forth, and they help build the relationship. It's a community outreach tool and it's free. But on the minute mark 36, you can get it. There's a nice image of this retrofit that I created. Mm-hmm. So I created a retrofit right here in the Milwaukee area. We have a medical rubber and plastic company, and I worked with them. We created some retrofit devices that I had to super glue on the back of the receiver.
Okay.
Imagine that. I even came up with a barrier device, a barrier cream that helps keep super glue from sticking to your fingers and the device and so forth. It was too time consuming, but I did do it, and I did work with it, and it does work. And I have just a couple of testimonials here. Let me read, Keith.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now these are from patients.
These are some patients who were struggling with insertion, and I super glued my little Gruv Button onto the back of the receiver. Now, this first one is from Ray. Ray was at a nursing home, assisted living, actually, and somebody told me, you make Ray happy, you're doing something, but we became friends. So here's his letter he wrote to me. Dear Jeff, I have now had ample time to evaluate the Gruv Button addition to my hearing aid. My original skepticism was unfounded. As you know, I was having trouble seating the device into my ear. Because of this, I was getting irritating feedback. Now, using my fingernail on the Gruv Button, I easily slide the device snugly into my ear. Rarely do I have to reseat it during the day, and when I do, the Gruv Button does the job. I'm very satisfied with the Gruv Button. I could have saved a lot of irritation if I had found it earlier. Thanks much for your help. This next one is from Lucy. Dear Jeff, I want to thank you. As I told you, I wasn't wearing my hearing aids because I had trouble inserting them with the arthritis in my hands and was concerned about losing one or both of them. Hearing aids are expensive. Then I heard about Gruv Buttons from a friend and that your hearing aid office had them. I can do this. Now I get them in my canals really, really deeply where they should be. And once they're in, they stay put, even when I wear my hat. Gruv Buttons are just a part of me now. I am enjoying hearing well and the comfort of a well-placed hearing aid. Thank you, Gruv Buttons.
That is awesome.
Isn't that something?
I mean, that is perfect social proof of this novel idea that everybody needs, and it just makes sense for everybody. I mean, everybody, again, I'll go back to your pronoun, we, everybody benefits from this type of, it seems radical, seems simple, yet radical transformation as to how we can help patients better adopt the use of their technology.
That's right. The whole industry benefits, the whole industry. So here's the last one. I said to Jerry, I said, how's it going, Jerry? He said, those are the best things that ever happened. They are so much easier to get in now, and they do the job. I hear pretty well now. They stay in better because I think they go in deeper. They're very comfortable. I'm very pleased with the results.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it's a little emotional to me, I have to say. I get a little choked up because to be able to help people this way is huge, and
look, Jeff, it's always emotional from our side because we want to help people. And at the end of the day, yes, we get to help people every day. But what is concerning, fact of life, 42 million people go without proper hearing health care. How many more people could we help if we could make the process more simple, right? I've always said to the patients, at the end of the day, I want their job. The only thing I want them to do, put them in, take them out. Like, that's it. Wipe them down, clean them off every so often. But really, I want the technology, especially now, the technology is smart enough to go with you from watching TV to going to a restaurant to talking on the phone. They've become easy. But why should a patient struggle at the beginning of every day with getting it in and then worry, is it going to fall out? If we can solve that, which you are solving, then why isn't every patient effective immediately walking out of my practice with the Gruv Button already integrated onto their receiver?
And that's the key. There's no reason. The hearing aid manufacturers must integrate this right onto the receiver. And think about it. So now it's automatic, it's intuitive, it's inclusive, and so forth. But now somebody has, I used to fit hearing aids $8,000, $8,290 when I started. I believe in the technology. God bless the engineers for their sound processing and for their connectivity and all that automatic technology that makes it simple.
Absolutely.
It's amazing. But it has to be built into the receiver. So now somebody has an expensive pair of hearing aids. They have a problem. You unplug one receiver, you put the new receiver in with the Gruv Button, and they're set to go. They don't need a new hearing aid.
Is that the only option, or is that on a good, better, best, is that the ultimate goal? I mean, can I not buy a box of 20 today and just pop them on to any receiver from any manufacturer? Tell me about that process.
Sure. Well, the retrofit I came up with had to be super glued on. That's just not practical.
No,
it proved to be impractical. I have a patent on another retrofit technology. I have another patent pending on a third, but a patent, retrofit. Retrofit's not the answer. Mm-hmm. It's just because the speakers come in different shapes, they come in different diameters, they come in different power levels. Manufacturers are different. I came up with a universal design. It would be too expensive to do, and still, the retrofit's not the answer. The answer is to have the Gruv Button integrated into the receiver when they build a receiver. That's why I need to get through to the hearing aid manufacturers that they need to do this. And every day that it's not done is another day people are struggling all over the world, Keith, all over the world. And if they'll do this, and I have even developed in my notes, a first mover advantage for the manufacturers, a motivation for early adopters from the manufacturers. let's get started with this. Let's get it done. And
I mean, I would imagine that I don't know. Haven't seen it, haven't touched it, but I mean, pennies, when you start producing, for every receiver that's produced, if you add this on, what are we talking?
Yeah.
$5, 50 cents. I mean, it has to be negligible.
It's got to be somewhere in between there, I would say, Exactly. And it'll just become the standard, but my job is to get through to the hearing aid manufacturers. That's my job. I retired from practicing to focus on this, to get through to the hearing aid manufacturers.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Now I'm going to just ask the obvious question, right? Because you and me both can pick up the phone and I'm going to, Oticon pops into mind. You and me both can pick up the phone or shoot an email to the president of Oticon, to Gary, and say, hey, let's talk. So have you done that? What type of reception have you received? What's the feeling out there?
Well, I have some interest from what I'm going to call a hero, because I'm working very hard, even through the Hearing Industries Association and their counterpart in Europe. So the Gruv Button technology is patented internationally, right? In the United States and in Europe. So I got to choose the countries. I chose for cost effectiveness. I chose Germany and the United Kingdom. And so it's internationally patented, and I've reached out, and man, I would think they'd be knocking at my door. So I'm working on that, Keith. I want to stay positive. I'm working on that. And I promise, as I've promised my patients, I'll get through to them. I'll do it.
Oh, I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. Because at some point, somebody's going to finally say, you know what? We need to do something to help more people. Right? Maybe right now they're too busy focused on how do I get my widgets on the shelves at the pharmacies and the big box stores? Like, how do I go OTC? But even then, I mean, look, OTC serves a purpose for the people that are OTC, where you're genuinely making universal hearing aids that are supposed to fit 98% of people who buy them. Wouldn't you want a Gruv Button that made it so, yeah, it might cost you an extra 50 cents to make, but now it's going to fit in that patient's ear, right? Because if that patient's never going to physically in person be trained by a hearing professional, wouldn't you want to give them every advantage at home to make sure that this thing works?
Right. The technology that the hearing aid has, whatever level of technology it is, can only be effective, can only be fully utilized if it's sufficiently deep in the ear canal. This doesn't have any drawbacks. All it does is help people. So it's.
I mean, have you approached any? Let's go with Bose, first one that pops into mind, right? Bose, who's making a universal fit hearing aid that you buy online, never see or talk to a hearing professional. Their goal would be to make sure that every patient that they adopt from a hearing perspective, but that they also adopt the technology from a physical perspective. This seems like a no-brainer for a company like that. What are they saying to Jeff when you come knocking?
It's a no-brainer to all of them, Keith. You know what I mean? Especially the better technology. Why wouldn't you want that inserted in your ears? Why wouldn't you want to help your patients, your end users, get that so that they can utilize that technology, the sophisticated technology? So all of them I have. And I haven't focused all that much, at really very little, on the OTCs at this point. But somebody has recommended to me that I start with them. If the manufacturers of the expensive hearing aid technology are dragging their feet, then why don't you focus on the OTCs? So it would be a shame if the OTCs beat the hearing aid manufacturers to the punch, but anything that's a RIC, even the thin tubes would benefit
of course
with the Gruv Button technology. Yeah. So So I'm working on it. I have plans, and we're working on it, Keith, and you're helping me. And
Well, and
you know, I wanted to,
that's one of my last questions to you, Jeff, is how can my audience, how can my network of providers and my providers who have thousands upon thousands of patients in their database, how do we get more momentum behind this no-brainer, you know, tiny, tiny, tiny piece of technology that can make millions of lives easier?
uh, I'm going to answer that question, Keith. Before I do, and I wanted to say this at the beginning, we've exchanged a few emails, but I've done my homework on you. I'm very impressed with you, man. You're a special guy. You really are, and you're a natural. And the answer to your question is on eachear.com.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little link to a petition. So I'm petitioning the Veterans Administration to stipulate Gruv Button technology in their purchase orders. They've done it before.
There you go.
They've done it before with tinnitus masking technology. They're the largest buyer of hearing aids in the world, our Veterans Administration. If they stipulate this technology, it'll become standard worldwide, because they're not going to make some receivers with and some with receivers without.
I love that backdoor approach of, look, if manufacturer A, B, and C are going to ignore me, then I'll go to the people who buy from the manufacturers in massive quantities.
Right. And this is inclusive. You know, the manufacturers, they talk about diversity and inclusivity and equity in HR among their workforce. Let's extend that to their customers.
Of course.
You know, gee. So, but in addition to the petition, which is easy to sign, at the end of the petition, they ask for that's the petition site asking for donations. You know, I take care of those guys. I donate to the petition site, so nobody has to do that. And, you know, in fact, I tell them not to. But the other thing they can do is leave a comment. So right along the top of eachear.com, there's a little link that says your comments, and they can leave a comment as a practitioner, as a patient. I have a comment as a nurse. She says, as a nurse, I can tell you it's not easy to put hearing aids in other people's ears. This will help caregivers. I signed the petition too.
I can tell you, as somebody who does it every day, right? Even we start, like, once you start messing with somebody else's ear, it's different. It's you want to be like, it's your ear, you know what it feels like, but it's not always that simple. And look, I'm not saying this is the silver bullet, but it's certainly the answer to all those people who are in assisted living, who are in dementia units. Look, I've had offline conversations with these people who say, Keith, I would love nothing more than for you to come in and help every one of these patients so that I knew they could hear me, so that I knew they could converse better with me, with my staff, with their friends, with their family. But hearing aids are nothing but a liability to this institution or this hospital because they fall out. They're not easy to put in. It becomes our responsibility. So then we lose it, we break it, we buy it. And we can't take that on. Yeah.
Yeah. The basic hearing aid training for caregivers helps with all of that also. And there are documents there for keeping track of where the hearing aids are and so forth, because it is a problem. So that's been addressed. It's basic training, but one of the instructors, I think it was Dr. Calderon, said it's the appropriate level of training for caregivers. It's basic, but it's thorough.
Perfect.
So yeah, so that helps with that. And I remember I had a lady in tears because she couldn't get her. She said she was in tears. This is during the trial period, and I had to show her because her ear canal angled back. And so, you know, I appreciate you helping me make the case and spreading the word. Your comments section and sign the petition would be very helpful.
Perfect. That's right at eachear.com. That will be in the listings below. Certainly we'll be circulating that on social media as we get this podcast out there. I will Anybody I see, speak to, I will pass this along. I'm with you, Jeff. I'm right there behind you. If there's any way that
Thank
I
you,
can
Keith.
continue to support you, be it myself, my partners, my patients, please don't hesitate to let us know. I genuinely appreciate your time today, and thank you, and God bless for all you do.
And God bless you too, Keith. And I can be reached at jeff@eachear.com. Manufacturers, jeff@eachear.com.
Yes. I
I can help in any way.
look. I might tag a bunch of the when I post this on social media. Maybe I'll tag the CEOs and the presidents of the manufacturers.
There you
Give them a
go.
little nudge.
Great.
All right, Jeff. Thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for your
Keith.
time. Take care.
My great pleasure. Thank you so much.